Nicky Lee, codenamed Tunnel Rat, is the face of G.I. Joe, but not in the way you'd expect. Let me explain. Before I do, let me say thank you for watching the channel, whether it's your first time here or you're back for more. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the content we upload just like this each and every week. Okay, let's get on to the video. Nicky was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York to Trinidadian and Chinese parents. He joined the United States Army and went to Fort Benning for Army Ranger School. After graduating, Nicky deployed to Grenada. This was most likely the 1983 invasion, codenamed Operation Urgent Fury. It was a force consisting of Army Rangers and Delta Force along with Navy SEALs and troops from some Caribbean island nations like Jamaica. At one point, the Cuban forces were attacking a key airfield that the Rangers had to take back, so they actually stole some bulldozers and construction equipment and used those as assault vehicles to take the airfield back, and that wasn't a G.I. Joe story, that was real life. And this is most likely what Nicky was doing in Grenada. It would be a couple years after this that Nicky would join another rapid deployment force, the G.I. Joes. He was bringing to the team as his file card details EOD and insertion capabilities. He's also skilled as a combat engineer and a backup medic for field treatment should one of the primary medics be unavailable. His V12 file card says that, quote, because he knows many natural healing remedies, he ends up becoming the group's medic whenever someone gets hurt, unquote. He must have also done first responder BLS, combat lifesaver, or tactical combat casualty care courses while at Fort Benning. His spy troops file card outlines his codename provenance quite well. It says, he earned his codename by crawling into enemy tunnels with a cocked .45 in one hand, a trench knife in the other, and a flashlight clenched in his teeth. Duke thought that Tunnel Rat was the perfect G.I. Joe to infiltrate Cobra underground systems since he was already poking around down there anyway. Most people would feel claustrophobic in a dim, narrow tunnel, especially if they knew that there would be mines and booby traps embedded in the walls, and that heavily armed guards might be lurking around the next bend. At the very least, they'd feel threatened, trapped, and totally insecure. Tunnel Rat feels none of that. He feels at home. He first appeared in Larry Hama's G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero comic book issue number 59 in 1987. While Tunnel Rat's figure, well, the face anyway, from this year, was designed to look like Larry Hama, hence the face of G.I. Joe, I'm sure he didn't want his own likeness for his series, so comic book Tunnel Rat does not resemble Larry Hama and therefore doesn't resemble his action figure. He was featured on the cover of the issue fighting Raptor and fending off a Cobra Pogo from atop a new strategic long-range artillery machine known as the Slam Cannon. In the issue, Cobra Commander was actually making fun of Raptor, and Raptor has a cape with feathers and really dove deep into his bird of prey gimmick. And to prove he wasn't a joke to Cobra Commander, Raptor used his accounting skills to pull up pay records for one Tunnel Rat whose pay record just transferred from Fort Leonard Wood to Fort Carson in Colorado. Meanwhile, the G.I. Joe team was in Utah testing out the Slam Cannon, and afterwards the convoy headed back east toward Colorado when Tunnel Rat flashed his G.I. Joe credit card. Yes, he has one of those, and it was part of what Raptor used to trace him. Raptor and Cobra Commander tracked him with Raptor's birds that he sent out flying around the Rockies. And Tunnel Rat was in the APC, and that's an amphibious personnel carrier, by the way, not armored. And it was pre-MRAP days, so Nicky was hanging out the back with his M60, the torn canvas cargo cover, his only protection. That's when Cobra Commander attacked the convoy, and with the Cobra Pogo, and a gunfight erupted as they raced through the tunnel in the mountain. He was then seen firing off a big MG on the cover of issue 72. He helped pursue the Star Viper who stole the black box on the Defiant, which Dr. Mindbender would later use as leverage to draw the Joes into Cobra Civil War. He was hanging out at the base and actually jumped right into the Desert Fox to give pursuit, but they lost the Star Viper, who had leapt onto a semi-truck that had a stiletto in the back. Tunnel Rat was also on the cover of the next issue, leaping from a hovering Cobra Mamba. The issue found Tunnel Rat and a Tomahawk 100 miles off of Cobra Island, landing on the USS Flag. The stolen black box had a homing beacon on it, and they were in hot pursuit. He was with the recon team with Lieutenant Falcon in command, along with Gung Ho, Spirit, Dial Tone, and Sneak Peek. And they inserted onto the island with the Cobra Mamba that they'd captured in the G.I. Joe yearbook issue. And this was right as the situation on Cobra Island was taking a nosedive. Cobra Commander and Serpentor were at each other's throats, and lines and allegiances were being drawn, quite literally, in the sand. So the Mamba swooped in low, and they dropped into the forest, and they watched from the trees as the Baroness and her forces assaulted Serpentor in the freighter for the opening shots of the Civil War. The recon team then got orders to proceed to the airfield by way of the marshes to recon the runway conditions and defenses. Tunnel Rat had point. Their operational orders and rules of engagement changed and gave them open sanction, and they were told to take the airfield at any cost. Captain Min from a previous issue was still trapped on the island, it turns out, and he told them about a storm drain that ran from the tree line under the open field right to the service access for the airport control tower. Tunnel Rat led them right through there. He climbed a ladder at the end of the tunnel and peered through the trap door into the floor of the watchtower, which was manned by a squad of Cobra. And Tunnel Rat leveled his weapon and shot them all down. They took the tower, which was critical from a strategic standpoint because it allowed the C-130s to land and it gave them line of sight all the way to the beach and far onto each side of the island, except it caught the eye of multiple commanders. Cobra Commander's forces raced Serpentor around the volcano right up to the airfield, while Destro's Iron Grenadiers made a beach assault from the other side of the airfield, leaving our small recon team trapped right in the middle of them all. And that's where they were in issue 75, trapped right in the tower. Wild Bill's Tomahawk was shot and he went down, and Gung Ho wanted to provide fire support from their overwatch position in the tower, but Tunnel Rat rightly reminded them that they were recon, and if they were noticed, both Destro and Zartan and Cobra Commander would level the tower. Serpentor and the Joes were pushed back and Destro walked into the airfield just as the team went back down the trapdoor into the drainage system. And in the dark tunnel, Tunnel Rat flipped on his backpack lights, which was cool to see. Their next problem was that Destro's forces were entering the tunnel system from the beach, and a squall was moving in that would flood the tunnels, so they had to move quickly if they wanted to survive, since they were now caught between nasty weather and behind enemy lines with troops closing in on their position. So that's when Captain Min showed them a small sluice tunnel to escape out of. With Tunnel Rat again on point, they had to crawl their way through the filthy water. Then, as if it couldn't get any worse, they were overwhelmed with thousands of rats in the tunnel. And then we get to see Hahama joke as Destro's cook had two of his IGs dump slop down the drain right on top of the Joes. So yes, it could get worse. But they finally made it out of the tunnel in issue 76. The drain put them between two hangars, and as the rain left, so too did Destro and his forces. This just as Zartan killed Serpentor with an arrow to the face, and the battle drew down quickly. They walked out of the forest and met up with Cobra and the Joes on the beach, who were watching Lady J and Zarana fight each other at the end of the Cobra Civil War. Tunnel Rat showed up again in issue 86. Which was the issue I talked about in my Shockwave video where they were at the Joe Colton office in the Chrysler building protecting a laser. Tunnel Rat was one of the reinforcements that showed up at the end. Looks like the party's over, he said. During the Battle of Benzine, specifically issue 113, Tunnel Rat was with Roadblock and Muskrat, and he was looking real mean and nasty on the cover, which was drawn, by the way, by Andy Kubert. They were in the tunnel beneath Benzine doing deep recon, and they popped out of the tunnel in this fancy enlisted quarters with leather and wood trim everywhere. They helped save Roadblock and Dusty and a deceased Sneak Peek who had been pinned down by full auto gunfire. In issue 140, Tunnel Rat led a team into the sewers beneath Millville. Tunnel Rat was the one who spotted Megatron from the Transformers and radioed Hawk to tell him. And Tunnel Rat and his team encountered these Cobra troops and engaged them in direct action that carried over to the next issue. Tunnel Rat was also featured in issue 151. He and Roadblock went back to Joe Colton's office, walking right in the ground floor with full loadout and weapons. So they hand him his orders, and they recall Joe Colton back to active duty. When G.I. Joe was decommissioned in 1994 with issue 155, Tunnel Rat became an active reserve member for the team through the Image and Devil's Due years. And he showed up again in Homoverse with issue 181. He was at the pit in the Electronics Research Lab with Tripwire, analyzing the schematics for a Krytron device, which is a nuclear trigger device. In issue 183, Tunnel Rat was in Benzine, next to the airport with both Dusty and Airtight. And they were there with their cover being that they were an EOD team helping clear landmines. This kid and his sheep walked over, and one of them went poof, and the kid was stuck in the middle of the minefield. Tunnel Rat told them that when the sun's low, the depressions made by the buried landmines make a slight shadow that you can actually see. And he used that to help guide the kid out of the minefield. And then suddenly a Python quest landed, and they saw Colonel Farood receive Darklon, and they knew their mission was about to get really sticky. Farood wanted to buy the Krytron device from Darklon. So they followed him into downtown Benzine, Tunnel Rat sporting some gold shades there. They rolled up on one of the Emir of Benzine's old palaces that Farood and his junta had taken over, and they drove up to it in their wagon hardtop Hummer. Tunnel Rat saw Destro and Baroness getting out of an armored limo through his rangefinder. They see this guy on orders from Darklon plant a bomb on Destro's limo, so Tunnel Rat actually rolled right out of the Hummer and went beneath the limo where he found a kilo of Semtex and was able to disarm it. In issue 185, Tunnel Rat calls quote-unquote Uncle Duke to give him a sitrep. He calls himself Nephew Nicky. Zartan snatched Tunnel Rat and put him in a police prison transport where he proceeded to give Road Pig a hard sidekick to the face, and then Pale Peony kicked Tunnel Rat in the back of the head. Zarana and Road Pig held him in the back of a clothing store for a brief amount of time with duct tape on his mouth, but they demanded him to talk. Not sure how that would happen, but they put him back in the prison truck, headed down the highway following Destro and Farood with Tunnel Rat still tied up. And that's when Pale Peony leaned over and whispered to him, "Don't worry, I'm on your side." So they smashed through the gates of the prison compound where Dusty and Airtight were being held prisoner, but which also contained the activated nuke in the basement. Zorana and Zartan shot their way to the nuke where Tunnel Rat was actually able to disarm it, thankfully. They went topside and ran into Lieutenant Falcon's rescue team, who said they're not going anywhere without Tunnel Rat or the Krytron, and that's when Wild Bill and Lifeline showed up in a Tomahawk helicopter, said new orders, leave the Krytron. So they did, but they took Tunnel Rat and Pale Peony back with them. Tunnel Rat was once again on the cover of issue 235, firing the cannon on top of the Ostriker. He was a torpedo and Alpine on the Alistan-Rodatistan border, trying to find Bombstrike to exfiltrate her. Tunnel Rat pointed out the crashed Robo-Skull that Bombstrike had taken down with her RPG, and they found her, but she was tied to the front of a Hiss tank, much like Baroness was during the first Cobra Civil War. They take their Ostriker and charge head-on into a Hiss 1, a Hiss 4, and a Ringneck where Black Major was riding atop. They had the speed and turning radius advantage, and Tunnel Rat was able to blast the tanks full broadside with Bombstrike's friend Layla firing RPGs from her dirt bike to help them out. But Black Major got off a shot and knocked Tunnel Rat right off the Ostriker, and Torpedo snagged him with one arm on the fly as they sped around in the desert. They picked him up, and they won and successfully got Bombstrike out. In issue 259, Tunnel Rat headed to the post office along with Airtight and Law & Order to check out a suspicious package. Turns out that it contained a prosthetic leg, which was a thank you gift from none other than Dr. Mindbender. And so the story of Tunnel Rat continues on into the future pages of G.I. Joe's A Real American Hero. He was also in a couple issues of G.I. Joe Special Missions. Issue 7, Tunnel Rat was in the sewer system beneath the Cobra Consulate building for a mission, and in the next issue he was with Lowlight and the team in Southeast Asia with a CIA spook named Anderson. In issue 21 of Special Missions, Tunnel Rat actually led the team in the field. He's on the cover of Special Missions 23, where he's part of a team led by Stalker that drop into Sierra Gordo, along with a new cameraman named Scoop, and they're tasked with a snatch and grab job to ambush El Jefe, and they ran into some Iron Grenadiers, but they're able to make it out there in a Tomahawk. And Tunnel Rat was also in G.I. Joe European Missions 15, which is a U.S. reprint from UK Action Force Monthly 15. And in the issue, Tunnel Rat and G.I. Joe are rolling on an oil field in the Arabian Gulf that Cobra had captured. Tunnel Rat was the one who took a team consisting of Sneak Peek, Hit and Run, Mainframe, and Fast Draw through some dried pipes to reach the main terminal's wellhead tower on the oil field. There, they managed to defuse the explosives that Cobra had planted. Tunnel Rat's V1 figure was released in 1987, the same year as his comic book appearance. He was also featured in a TV commercial for the Coastal Defender that same year. In 88, so the next year, Tunnel Rat joined Night Force and came in a Toys R Us 2-pack along with Psych Out. In 1990, Tunnel Rat joined the Sonic Fighters detachment for that action figure line. In 91, Tunnel Rat was released in Europe as part of Tiger Force, but that was only for Europe and not America. In 2003, Tunnel Rat was carded with Overkill for the Spy Troops line and later in a box set for a Costco exclusive. 2004 gave us a Night Force Tunnel Rat, which came in a Toys R Us exclusive set. In the same year, we also got a Vala vs. Venom version carded with Electric Eel. It was a busy year for Tunnel Rat because Toys R Us also released an exclusive for the Desert Patrol squad set, which he was in. He was carded in 2005 with Razor Claw, as well as a 3-pack with Flint and General Abernathy, and a reprint of A Real American Hero comic book issue 74. Then you got a break for a couple years, and in 2009, there was a 2-pack where he was with Storm Shadow in another comic book. That year, he was also in a Walmart 2-pack along with Monkey Wrench. And then PFC Nicky Lee is Tunnel Rat, released in 2011 for the Renegades line, which was the 30th anniversary. And Nicky here is an infiltrator, and includes an EOD robot as part of his kit. On the animated side, Tunnel Rat debuted not in the Sunbow series, but in G.I. Joe the movie. He was one of the new recruits to the team, and was voiced by Laurie Faso, who also voiced Raphael in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. He was the voice of Zack from Sectars, and a few Transformers like Skydive, Orion Pax, and Rampage. Tunnel Rat was not in the Deke series, but he did show up in Spy Troops the movie, Sigma 6, Resolute, and Renegades. And so there you have it, the story of Tunnel Rat. And that's a wrap on this one, my friends. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be one of the first to know when I upload videos just like this each and every week. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.